Now this was a great arrangement as far as I was concerned until one night she tried pulling what she thought was a power move that blew up in her face. A while back, my buddies and I were out having a few cocktails at one of our favorite nighttime spots, Señor Frog's. Señor Frog's was on the Vegas Strip and was located where all the action was. There was never a shortage of hot girls there, and it didn't matter what day of the week it was. Tuesday, Sunday, Thursday, didn't matter. Señor Frog's was the place to be if you were looking to try to get some action. Anyway, we were all sipping our whiskeys and having a good time when I spot a drop-dead gorgeous Mexican girl with some of the perkiest boobs I'd ever seen sitting at a table all by herself. This was a little confusing to me because girls who look like that are almost never out alone. They're either surrounded by their girlfriends or out with a boyfriend. But seeing a smoke show sitting alone was extremely rare, even in a city like Vegas that's crawling with hotties. Now, I didn't waste any time standing around pondering why she was there, or figuring out how I should approach her, because even in a target-rich environment like this,
You snooze, you lose.
all it would take is me hesitating for a split second and someone else would slide right in and talk to her before I did. So I acted quickly and decisively, walked right over, sat at her table directly across from her, and used the greatest pickup line ever. Hi.
I'm Donovan.
Now, even though she did see me walk up and nonchalantly take my seat, she looked a little surprised. My guess was that she probably had never been approached like that before. Now, some of you guys might think, well, how could you think that, Donovan? Hot girls get approached all the time. And you'd be wrong. Because believe it or not, super attractive women don't get hit on nearly as often as you might think. And the reason for this is because they're, well, of course, super attractive. Okay, sure. Men will strike up conversations with these girls, but they never do so in such a way that tells them in no uncertain terms that they are trying to build attraction. The truth is, 99% of men who do talk to hot girls usually just talk about the weather, or a funny video they saw on YouTube, basically any benign topic they could think of just to be talking to her. But these guys never straight up ask her for her phone number, or suggest that they hang out or go out for drinks. Most men never really make a move because they're afraid to. Why are they afraid? Because hot girls are intimidating to most men. And because of this, they are always pleasantly surprised when a man grabs his Y chromosome and just goes for it with her. Well, this was obviously the case with this girl. Anyway, after I introduced myself, she said,
"Hi, I'm Luce."
I smirked and sarcastically replied, I certainly hope not. That would make things pretty awkward tomorrow morning. She looked at the floor and smiled in embarrassment as her cheeks turned a brilliant shade of magenta. And that's when it hit me. This girl is shy. Girls who look like she does are almost never shy. If they are, it's usually because they were an ugly duckling growing up or just a natural introvert. Having lived in Vegas for as long as I had never spoken to an attractive woman who was shy. So now there were two surprised people sitting at the table. The difference was I was able to hide mine. She, however, clearly was not, which was fine by me. Now, having dated my fair share of Latinas, I knew that the word Luce was actually her name. Luce is a fairly uncommon girl's name in Mexico. It's actually spelled L-U-Z. She was maybe the third or fourth I had ever met at this point. So me knowing that this was actually her name worked to my advantage, because not only did I use it to playfully make fun of her, but to also let her know up front why I was sitting there. Remember the quote, awkward in the morning response? See what I did there? Anyway, she said,
No, my name is Luce.
And then she spelled it out.
L-U-Z.
I said, oh, thank goodness. I'd hate to have to kick you out of my apartment 2 hours after we met. I mean, how embarrassing would that be for you, right? Her grin was ear to ear as she giggled with delight. It was obvious my game was tighter than a snare drum that night because she was soaking it up like a dry sponge. I mean, this girl was quite literally tickled pink. So she says,
I'm sorry, I have a boyfriend.
And I said,
Well, I'm not. He's not invited.
She giggled again, but this time she put her hand over her mouth to keep herself from laughing out loud. This is gonna be a slam dunk, I thought. I might not even need to get her phone number. Turns out I was wrong, because after she stopped giggling, she said,
Let me see your phone.
I sarcastically said, no way, I don't know where your hands have been. And this time she finally laughed out loud, but only for a split second because she quickly covered her mouth and went back to giggling. After she regained her composure, she said,
You're really not going to let me see your phone?
I said, well, that depends. Are you going to give me your phone number or your fat ugly sister's? Because I'm going to warn you up front, fat girls give me nightmares. Once again, she giggled with delight. So I handed her my phone and she put in her digits. But as soon as she did, she got right up and left the table immediately. Now, there was no way I was going to turn around and say, wait, come back! Why? Because that would have made me look extremely desperate and very thirsty. I knew she liked me, and had I broken character and gone from charming, charismatic, and fun to me chasing her out of the bar, her attraction to me would have been gravely compromised. Now, I had no idea why she just got up and left, but I didn't really care. Maybe she was meeting up with her friends, maybe she saw someone she knew, or maybe she actually did have a boyfriend and saw him walk in. Who knows? Either way, I got the digits and that's all that mattered. Well, the very next weekend, we started sleeping together. She lived in Indian Springs, which was roughly a half-an-hour drive for me. Yes, this was a minor inconvenience, but she always treated me very well when I went to see her. She'd have a pack of cigarettes and a bottle of my favorite whiskey waiting for me when I got there. Then she'd make me a nice meal. I mean, Luce really rolled out the red carpet for me every time I drove out there. After we ate, we'd relax and watch a movie and maybe fool around a little bit. Okay, so we never made it to the end of a movie for obvious reasons, but at least we tried, right? Now, the sex wasn't exactly mind-blowing. Don't get me wrong, it was sufficient, but she just wasn't that good in bed. Thankfully, she had the body of an adult film star, so that was a nice consolation. But like I said last week, sex with super hot girls is usually fairly average, and that's probably putting it lightly. Anyway, every Friday or Saturday night, I'd drive out to Indian Springs to see her. Now, this was a great arrangement as far as I was concerned until one night she tried pulling what she thought was a power move that blew up in her face. Before I tell you about that fiasco, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video with anyone you know who keys standing up. And if you'd like to get weekly individualized coaching, become a patron at patreon.com/Donovan Sharpe. All patrons $5 and above get weekly access to my 1-hour Zoom meetings where I give coaching, do consultations, and give guidance about girls, game, finance, fitness, and anything else that pertains to becoming the best version of yourself. Okay, let's get back to my story. So I drive out there one Friday evening and everything is going the way it usually does. She had my cigarettes, my whiskey, and made a nice chicken dish. After we finished eating, we had a couple of cocktails and then of course I tried making a move to have some fun. Now usually she reciprocates and 15 seconds later she's butt naked and on her knees. But this time was a little different. Instead of letting me pull up her dress and get it in, she pulls away and says,
You haven't earned it yet.
Now, she giggled when she said it, much the way she did the night we met. So I thought she was joking around and trying to be playful. So I try again, and she pulls away again and says,
No, I'm serious. You haven't earned it yet.
Now I'm confused. I said to her, Are you kidding with this? She says,
No, I'm not kidding, Donovan. You can't just waltz in here and smash without whining and dining me a little bit.
So I said to her,
Well, I ain't the whining and dining type.
And she said,
Well then, I guess you're not getting laid tonight.
And I said, That's what you think. Grabbed my stuff and walked right out the door. You see, what this girl didn't know was that she was the side chick. I had a girlfriend at the time and she was coming to my place later that night after she got off work. This is why what Luce tried to pull didn't faze me. That's the power of abundance. Girls try to pull this nonsense all the time. They give up the booty anytime you want in the beginning and then try to take it away to control you. Now, the average man would have fallen for Luce's BS, but not me. And I demonstrated as much when I left without a backwards glance when she tried this little power move of hers. And just as expected, she's blown up my phone the entire drive back to Vegas.
Come back! I was kidding. Why are you being stupid? I'm sorry. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to whine and dine me.
Blah, blah, blah.
No, I didn't turn around, and no, I didn't respond. I straight up put her ass on ice and went radio silent on her. That entire weekend, she called and texted non-stop. Her emotions were all over the map as she couldn't seem to decide whether she loved me or hated me. And even though I fully expected this, it was still amusing to watch her squirm for a couple of days. So Monday afternoon, I ended her suffering and texted her, We need to talk, my place at 7. Now, she tried poking and prodding to find out what I wanted to talk about. She tried calling and threatening not to come over and all the rest of that. The typical behavior of a woman in her predicament. But I never responded. And at 6:45, right on schedule, she gets to my place dressed like she was headed to work at a gentleman's club. Short skirt, heels, curly hair, hoop earrings, red lipstick, and a barely there blouse that covered maybe 10% of her C-cup you-know-whats. I was pretty sure she was wearing a bra. Anyway, when she nervously asked me what we needed to talk about, I shrugged my shoulders and casually said, Never mind, it wasn't a big deal. Those were my words verbatim. Luce breathed a sigh of relief and asked me what I wanted her to cook me for dinner. I told her, It's all on the counter, medium rare. True story, guys. I had taken out a New York strip about a half an hour before she arrived because I knew that she would offer herself up on a silver platter and do whatever I wanted her to do. So before I rearranged her insides, I wanted her to cook me a steak. Not just because I was hungry, but to put her back in her place, which was subservient, submissive, and obedient with no whining and dining necessary. She was on my territory, and I wanted to drill into her psyche that she was there to serve me. So she eagerly goes into the kitchen, skirt, hoop, heels and all, cooks my steak and broccoli to perfection, then willingly and eagerly gives me access to all 3 of her luscious little holes. No exaggeration, guys. This is exactly what happened to the letter. That night of bedroom fun was far above average, and it stayed that way for quite a while, as she gladly accepted her role as my side chick for about the next 7 or 8 months. That's right, guys. The night she came over to get her brakes beat off after I put her on ice, I told her I had a girlfriend, and she still stuck around. She didn't like it, but she accepted it, and she still treated me like a king. That's how desperate she was to keep me in her life. This is the power of the abundance mindset, gentlemen. Eventually, she did end things because no side chick wants to be a side chick forever. They want that #1 spot. But after I shut down her 4th or 5th attempt at trying to be my main chick, she finally decided to move on. And I'm not gonna lie, guys, this one did sting a little. She was hot, she was actually a sweet girl, and did whatever I told her to. But one of the main reasons I didn't make her my main chick was because she knowingly and willingly played second fiddle to another woman, which likely means she had self-worth issues. It turns out that Luce was indeed an ugly duckling. And while that does explain her kind disposition, it also explains her promiscuous proclivities. The night I approached her at Senior Frogs, she was there with her boyfriend. That's why she got up and left as soon as she gave me her number. And while I'm fairly certain that just about every girl I've dated in the 702 probably gave their numbers out to other guys while with me, Luce actually showed me during our very first interaction that she could not be trusted in a relationship. But on the bright side, I was spending a lot less on gas, so at least I ended up in the black.